Yo, what up? We are back. I've got two videos for you here today on the GSOR Tier 9 light tank. Now I am stock. I've played 5 games in this tank, and this is one of those 5 games. If you are new here, remember to subscribe, like the video, and turn on your notifications, especially if you are here for the mod pack updates. You will get a notification. Now, like I was saying, I'm new to this tank. A lot of people say this tank isn't that great, but I'm gonna grind it anyway. I don't have any free XP, so I'm grinding it stock. I have the stock gun on it, and I'm in Lakeville taking the normal bush that light tanks normally take. Now you see me rotating really slowly there, getting to my positions fairly slowly, and that's because when you're in stock mode, it isn't that great. Now, like I said, a lot of people think this tank already is not great even in its top configuration, but imagine playing this in stock mode. The only redeeming value it has is the stock gun is pretty good, because the stock gun actually has 226 penetration on its standard shells and 258 if you're firing the premium APCR shells, which is what I'm doing. So 258 premium shells is a lot better than the upgraded gun, for your information, because the upgraded gun actually has less penetration on the premium shells. The upgraded gun has something like, let me check, 254 penetration. So you've got 4 more millimeters of penetration on the stock gun with premium shells. Now, I'm going to be running stock, so I'm going to be firing a lot of APCR shells in my stock gun. This tank is really slow when it's stock. It's not that great. I'm top tier in this game, but even in top tier, I don't feel I can do much, because if you look at the map, none of my HTs have come into the city. They've decided to fight on the 1-2 line in the valley, which is not really good if you're like a T10 with no gun depression. Look at my turning radius here. I am struggling with mobility here. Turning left and right, this thing is like turning a bus. And that's how it feels like. It is so slow, and the turning radius feels like a huge bus. So that's what I'm struggling with right now, which it's difficult. It looks like I'm cruising along, but I'm actually trying to go top speed here. Now, I've done my part there, doing some spotting. That's the best I can do. The other thing that's good about this tank, other than the stock gun, is the camo values. The camo values, I've got it up to about 40%. It is less than the LHM TV Tier 8 camo value. I do have, besides BIA crew and all that, I also have the natural cover, what do you call that, the one you buy with bonds, that skill for the crew. 6 bonds, I think. I've got a bunch of them, so I'm using them for my light tanks to try and get some extra camo values. Now my team is melting terribly here, and I've done absolutely nothing, so I've got to try to make some plays here. Now, if you're familiar with Lakeville on the 1-2 line, it is really terrible for your terrain resistances. Now, I'm trying to turn look at me turning, how slow it is. The terrain resistances on this tank is absolutely horrible. You turn, you can't turn. It just feels absolutely terrible. I feel like a T95 turning a huge, heavy, big tank. It's really tough to turn. Luckily, I rushed the Lowy before, right after he fired, which gave me time to take 2 shots on him, and he got stunned. Now, this tank, the reload time is really terrible, 9.3 seconds. With all your skills and everything, maybe you get it down to 8.5 seconds or something like that. That's the best you can do. The dispersion is 0.35. Like I said, the good thing about this tank, it's got good camo, and it's got good penetration on its AP and APCR shells. So you need to think about that when you're playing this tank. What you're gonna do with good camo and good penetration? Well, the answer is simple. Try to snipe from a distance if you can. Now, I'm trying to snipe this cupola of this AMX heavy tank, but even in point blank distance, completely stationary, it was not working. It was terrible, and even if I did hit the cupola, it wouldn't penetrate. So I was like, you know, you're feeling very helpless in a tank like this, which is why, understandably, a lot of people say that this tank is absolutely terrible for this tier. In fact, if I had to choose, I would say this should be a tier 8 at best. It shouldn't be a tier 9. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with us when we were hitting on this tank. The problem is we are comparing it with other tier 9 tanks. You're comparing it with an 1390. You're comparing it with the mighty T54 lightweight. You're comparing it with the crazy EBR90, and you know, you can't really compare it with those kind of tanks because those kind of tanks are gonna beat the shit out of you if you're driving in the GSOR. The real way to completely balance this tank out is, you see, I didn't do very well, but I still finished top of the team. Now we lost that game. Now we are now in highway on a good spawn, the north spawn. I'm gonna get to the bush in the middle and try and spot out people. Now this tank, you can't be alone in it. You need a friend, and thank goodness this back chat 12 ton here, he's doing his part as well. He is doing some active runs, running around the map onto the other side to try and check where the enemies are. I'm taking a big risk here. Even though I'm slow, I'm still trying to put myself into this bush. Often this bush gets rushed by fast light tanks, and they do have a couple of fast light tanks like the LTTB, the RU-251, so it's a bit sketchy, you know, risking myself out here. So but you gotta do it. You gotta try and, you know, you gotta risk it for the biscuit. So let's try to make some plays. I managed to spot some guys out that kind of spooked them. Some of them run away, some of them stopped advancing, so that's a good play on my part. But here's the main threat in LTTB, fast mobile tank. I can't take him on my own. I do need this bad chat. I signal to him to attack this guy, and I will see if I can help him out here. If he rushes too close to me, I need to shoot him. But I see that bad chat engaging him, so I've got to help out that bad chat. I'm gonna get spotted. I need to run away soon. I'm gonna make my move, but look at how I turn. I turn like a big old bus. It's so difficult for me to turn, and now I'm in the water. Oh my god, the terrain resistance on this tank is so bad. If you drive into water, into soft terrain, it's absolutely terrible. Especially if you're stuck. If you're stuck, you can't do any of it. If I'm going to make another escape from this bush, I'm going to make sure I run on the dry land here. Now, like I said, it's difficult to compare this tank to other other light tanks in tier 9. It's impossible. You can't do it. The correct way to balance out this tank, in my opinion, is you need to match up the GSOR on both teams. If you're gonna give me a matchmaking in tier 9, you've got to put another GSOR on the enemy team. That's the only way for you to balance out this tank. This tank, I don't want to say it's so bad. It is bad because you're comparing it to tanks that you can't compete with. You cannot compete with 1390, T54 lightweight, EBR90. That's not how you play this tank. This tank is it's like an ELC even 90. You need to play with your camouflage, view range, and your sniping capabilities. Now right here, this is exactly what I'm doing. I am using my 258 penetration on my stock gun to penetrate these guys from long distances, and it's working out well for me. When I hit them, of course, if I don't hit them, there's not much I can do about it. The shell velocity on this gun is 1275, which is pretty good for APCR shells. You know, I'm going to be making my shots. I'm going to be hitting quite consistently. Again, as I was saying, you don't really want to compare this tank to other light tanks. You've just got to play it the way it is. Now, the only good thing about this tank is, even though it sucks for you, you've got to realize that it's gonna suck for everyone else who's also playing this tank. So it doesn't suck only exclusively to you. You know what I'm saying? So although I understand that a lot of people complain about how uncompetitive and how terrible this tank is to compete. In fact, this entire line, the tier 7, tier 8, tier 9, and even the Manticore, a lot of people complain about how uncompetitive and terrible this tank is. But you've got to figure out that you've got to play to its strengths. Its strengths is camo, its strengths is the high penetration. So it is not a carry, you know, it is not like a hero tank, a carry tank. You can't circle people and, you know, bully people around with you know, with your DPM, because it doesn't have any DPM. It's got great penetration, great camo, but it reloads in at best 8.5 seconds, so that's terrible. You can't really like outgun anyone. So you do need friends for you to succeed when you're playing this tank. If you do not have friends, it's very difficult to take matters into your own hand. So you've got to you've got to play it that way. You've just got to accept that you can't be like the hero carrying the game, making the plays, because you just can't do that in this kind of tank. It is not meant to be like an aggressive combat tank. It is more of a passive combat tank. You do want to do your best. You do want to try and make your shots count, but you've got to play to its strengths, which is camo, view range, and high penetration of your APCR and AP shells. So that's what you've got to do. And fortunately, I had a good team here that knew what to do. The MVP is probably the T44 that spotted everyone out on that A1, A2, Alpha 1, Alpha 2 grid, and he basically spotted everyone and did the most damage there. Now I could have rushed forward here because I was full HP. I could have rushed forward and did the proxy and earned a lot more XP for this. It didn't occur to me at that point at the time, but I'm quite happy with the result, considering my kind of like a passive role here. I did my part, helped my team win, and that's what this tank is about. And I'm not top in anything, but I'm glad I contributed something to the victory of the team, and that's what matters. So there you go. That's my initial reaction video. My first 5 games in this tank stock. I hope you enjoyed some insight into how to play to the maximum potential of this tank. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.